Hey guys, it's Rufus. I'm going to explain the 3 different pushes that you can use as a team, starting with the master push. The great thing about this push is that it's simple, easy, and can be used with pretty much any team. Our goal is to take control of master, trophy, and armory, so that we can open the master wall and eventually go for an execute into games, which I'll get to later. So first is our roam clear. There are a couple ways that you can perform this. The most common way to clear this is by taking armory control and using the master balcony in order to push into master and take trophy control. The most important part to this push is taking armory control, and that is because you need armory in order to take trophy. If you just push master, you're most likely going to lose a person or two, because pushing linearly like this is an awful way to try and take control. If the defenders are contesting armory though, it's very common for the attackers to breach below with either Buck, Ash, or Zofia. At the same time, somebody will be on the armory window and at the main stairs, which cuts off the armory player from rotating out. When the defenders hold armory, it is pretty common for the attackers to do a quick sweep below sight. This helps prevent the defenders from trying to throw nitros in master, and also makes it harder to flank if the attackers have already cleared main lobby and set up flank watch. However, clearing down here is more important for preventing nitros in the late round, which I'll get to soon. Once you've gotten through this entire roam clear, you need to open up the master wall, which will always be easy. You can breach below this wall or just use a Thatcher or Maverick to open it. But once you've opened the master wall, you now need to prepare for execute. As always, you will need to clear any utility on site and then use any smokes in order to cut off the defenders from peeking your planner. Where you throw your smokes in this situation is going to vary based on where you plant. Games itself has several plant spots, but when you're using this strategy, the best spot is on this table. If you were to plant here, you would need to smoke off the white rotate and also this walkway here. The great part of this plant spot is that you can't get nitroed from below, and you can't get peeked from attic. Another common plant spot is in this corner, and I don't like this plant spot for a couple of reasons, since it's the most predictable spot and can easily be nitroed. The defenders can walk down this hallway and nitro right in this spot in order to deny plant. That's why taking control below sight can be very helpful. If you have a person watch for nitros in the late round, it will likely save the round. You can also clip smokes canisters through this wall and hurt a planner in this corner. The last thing I want to talk about regarding this push is what to do when this trophy wall is opened. This is a common strategy, and when the defenders open this wall, it can be very difficult to not only enter trophy, but you can get peeked in master from some pretty long angles in attic. Even if you do manage to get into trophy though, any defenders in attic can easily interfere with your push and get some easy picks. So if you do encounter this strategy, I suggest having 2 teammates rotate over to big tower so that they can open the attic wall. You'd essentially be switching up your strategy and going for both a master and an attic push. This next push is the master attic push. All you do is have 3 people push master, like I described earlier, and at the same time, you have 2 people push tower and open the attic wall. Now, once the attic wall is open, you really just want to wait for your teammates to clear master. We're going to be taking attic, but it's the last thing you should do before your execute. That's because taking attic control is a lot easier when you have teammates in trophy that can help you out. There are 3 ways for your teammates to help you out. The best way is by opening the trophy wall, but obviously you can't open this wall without some defender on site shooting it. So in order to open it, you will have to have Ace or Habana. You can throw a smoke on the ground and then hide your hard breach in it as it explodes. This way, it's much harder for the defenders to accurately shoot it, and majority of the time, they won't be able to shoot it. Now, I suggest experimenting with where you use your hard breach because there are different angles and positions you can play at in order to make this strategy more effective. But the next way for your teammates to help out with taking attic control is by throwing projectiles through this wood panel. You can use frags, flashes, ying, or kapitao in order to prevent the attic player from playing in here comfortably. It doesn't really matter exactly how you do it, but if I'm playing attic and I start getting hit by concussions, flashes, and frags, I'm falling out immediately instead of taking a disadvantaged gunfight. The final way is the simplest, and all you have to do is have somebody drone out and give comms. Remember this panel here, cause you can use a cool little trick and toss a drone up here. Sometimes the attic player won't see it, but if they do, you'll at least have the intel on them. Anyway, once you do eventually push up through attic and take attic control, you are now ready for your execute. When you push both attic and master, your post-plant positions are going to be much stronger, and you can also get a plant down much easier. In fact, you don't even need smokes, because you can plant right here without being seen from any defenders. Otherwise, you can plant in the same spots in games that I mentioned earlier. This last push is one I really like because there are so many things that can go wrong with the other strategies. There's just so many angles and so many different ways the defenders can try to prevent you from taking the control you need. This strategy is all about avoiding the defender's utility and reducing the amount of gunfights you need to take in order to go for an execute. Our goal is to enter site through big window, but in order to do that, we need to clear both dorms and kids. Because the entire floor is soft in this part of site, we can roam clear below site and breach below both kids and dorms. We'd be roam clearing from small tower up to dining, kitchen, and security. This allows us to watch our flank from only one doorway and from this hallway. The best part about this though is that most teams don't expect this push and therefore they don't set up roamers below site. Sometimes there will be one roamer below site, but kids' dorms is commonly played with a lot of anchors. So anyway, once you have this control, we want two people to rotate outside. One is going to play on big window and the other will be on kids window. This is so that we can play on these windows and cut off rotations in both dorms and kids. This will be helpful when we start breaching below both kids and dorms because this basically guarantees that any defenders in kids and dorms will be forced to take a gunfight if they want to retreat. We can also play at top white and cut off even more rotations. Now, once we've breached below kids and dorms enough that the defenders are forced to retreat, we will need to begin rotating for our execute. An ideal setup would have 2 or 3 people on big window, 1 person on kids window, and another at white stairs. But remember that we're entering site through big window, so that's why so many people are going to be here. Anyway, when we're ready to push into site and plant, it should be fairly easy. Remember that our teammates are holding a perfect cross at white and the kids window. So once you start pushing into site and going for a plant, it's going to be very hard for the defenders to retake site. There are just so many angles the attackers can use if they set up properly. Another thing I'd like to add is that you can open the attic wall for this push, but you don't need to make a rotate, but rather a line of sight. The benefit of doing this is you can make the attic players less likely to try and peek the player on kid's window. And if you actually have somebody sitting in tower, you could just hold this angle and wait for a defender to peek. This would be a good spot for a Maverick player, for example. Next, I'm going to tell you what not to do, and what you shouldn't do is perform an attic only push. This is because the push is overall very linear and it's going to be very difficult to push into attic, especially if roamers are below the attic hatch. However, even if you do take attic control, you can't do anything with the control. You can't get into site because the master wall isn't open, and anybody could be holding a cross onto the attic door from either trophy or games. But now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'd like to talk about which strategy is best. Pushing master only is probably the weakest because executes are generally going to be harder, and if trophy wall is opened, it can potentially destroy the push entirely. The master and attic push is easier during the execute, but roam clearing attic isn't easy to say the least. However, most of what can go wrong is avoidable with this strategy. But for the last push, I really like this one because it completely changes up the way the defenders are used to playing. You can almost entirely avoid the defender's utility, and most of the time, your roam clear won't be contested whatsoever. So I'd say the only benefit of the other pushes is flank watch, since you only have to watch 1 or 2 stairways. However, at the same time, you'll need to watch 1 doorway and 1 hallway for this push. Now, if you want to follow my Twitter, Discord server, or Patreon, link will be in the description below, but that's all to say for this video, and if you learned something, give the video a like, and if you want to see more content like this, then subscribe. Toodles!